excited to bring you a podcast from a different country. Little did we know that God was going to blow this thing up right out of the gate. So we're excited that you're going to join us one more time for the adventure that we're all on together. We're going to welcome our friend, Pastor Jason Connor. All right, so here we are again, this time in a different country. Last time I joked around that we were in Hawaii, right? This time I'm actually in England with this bloke here, who's actually not from England, which we're going to get into, but now lives here in Coventry, right? Smack dab in the middle of the island. And this is Pastor Jason Connor, affectionately known as Jake to some, but we'll just call him Jason. And Pete and Judd, welcome to our little part of the world.
Are they okay with it being called England, or is it like the UK?
No, England's good. Yeah,
England's okay. Does it depend on where you're at in England, or is it just a kind of a England's good?
I think all around. Yeah, just England's good.
Okay.
Yeah,
just want to make sure we're not insulting anybody.
No, you're not offending anyone. I'm pretty new, so you may be, and I may be too, but
you may be way off, and we're just gonna drive off our huge market of people from the UK that are gonna be jumping on Iron Edge after this. I think that's gonna happen. I plan on sharing this with a couple of my buddies in the UK. So
good. We want to start our chapter.
Yeah, there we go.
From the UK or from England?
I'm calling it the UK.
You're already offending him, man.
Look,
England.
I'm used to the military guys. They call it the UK, man. I'm just going to go with what I know.
Perfect.
And those are the guys I'm going to be reaching out to. So, marketing.
Yeah. Well, it's either going to be the Coventry chapter or the UK chapter or the England chapter. One of those three. But either way, look out for that soon. We're sure that's going to happen.
Hey, we got some people over there already.
Because, this is a guy we were talking today, from a part of Florida that, I'll let him tell his testimony, but it is a lot different than here in the middle of England. So, with that being said, I know Jason's a bit of Jason's testimony. There's a lot to cover. And I kind of pose it to him like this. We can talk about the car accident where he literally was on death's doorstep and God miraculously intervened. And we can talk about that, and we can talk about everything before and after. There's a whole lot there, but I'm just happy that we get to kind of share some of what, this guy has gone through so that we can learn. So, without further ado, let us in.
Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, let me just say how excited I am to be on here, to be able to share. I really appreciate it. It's an honor, truly.
Honor's ours.
Yeah. So, honestly, the most interesting part of my testimony would be the car accident. The rest of my life's been pretty boring, I'd say probably. But maybe just a quick backstory. If you didn't watch Jordan's when you guys interviewed Jordan Roberts, I grew up pretty similar to him, where you didn't show any weakness. You didn't ask for help. So that kind of a segue into this testimony of my car accident. So in probably 2010, I decided to pursue a golf career, and I hit it pretty hard. I was practicing. I started out with a 16 handicap. I don't know if you know anything about golf, but 16 handicap wasn't something you start out with and want to pursue to go to a professional. I wasn't that great, but I just, depending on God for a source of income that was pretty difficult for me. So I needed to do something. So I love golf. I loved golf. And so that's what I decided to do. So I pursued it, hit it hard. And I got to where I was a +4 handicap where I was shooting under par pretty regularly.
Wow.
On an average basis. And so 2012, I went to North Florida actually, and won the amateur championship at TPC Sawgrass.
Nice.
And then that next year, I actually turned pro, where I could play in some pro tournaments.
Did you ever get up to Kiwa?
No, I didn't. No, never played there.
That's the course right there, right?
Yeah, that is. It looks beautiful. Yeah. So I was on a little mini tour that was in mainly Oklahoma and Texas. And in 2015, I was headed from Oklahoma to Texas to play in a tournament down there, and got behind a semi truck. His back wheels were smoking. I just bought a brand new truck, and I didn't want his wheel to pop and hit my brand new truck and scratch it. So I thought, let me get around this guy real quick before that happens. And as soon as I pulled up right next to him, this whole back wheel, axle, everything broke loose and hit the front of my truck and just sent me pretty much just straight up into the air.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have my seatbelt on. So I went straight up in the air, turned a little bit, and then it just rolled. And I was thrown out of my truck about 70 miles an hour. Yeah. Yeah, I can remember still being in there, holding onto the wheel, just looking at sky, thinking I have no control over this truck at all.
Yeah.
So,
Dang.
yeah, they say I hit the ground about 65 miles an hour. So as you can imagine, I had multiple broken ribs, both lungs collapsed, dislocated shoulder, major back issues, big concussion. I only had half an eyebrow, big concussion. And yeah, so just on the ground there, I tried to get up and walk it off, as a guy, you're trying to walk this off, but got up to one knee and just had to go back on the ground. It was just incredible pain. So, just laying there on the ground, I think I had a realization of what I'd been doing. My priority list was way out of whack. That's pretty much my whole testimony is about my priorities and where they were at. He was down here somewhere down low. Top of my list was golf. I mean, I'd put golf above everything. Wife, family. I mean, I was missing church. I took my wife on a birthday trip, but it was a golf tournament trip. Missing kid stuff and just laying there on the ground in all kinds of pain. I just realized golf couldn't save me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I just people were asking me questions like all kinds of stuff. I don't remember the questions, but I just remember all I could muster the strength to say was, Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. I just kept saying it over and over, but that was a big realization. Yeah. My priorities were just way out of whack.
The fact that you're alive that's amazing. I've seen some bad accidents before, so has Judd and maybe even Shad, but to hear about that and the fact that you're still sitting here talking to us is kind of a miracle in itself, I think. Yeah,
it is a true miracle. In the hospital, the doctor told my wife that highway speed accidents where someone's ejected out of a vehicle, 10% of them survive.
Kinetic energy, man.
Out of that 10%, 1% of that 10% walk again.
Oh yeah, man. Hit deck at 65 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah. The crazy thing is I happened to be in Oklahoma City at the time for a conference at our church, or at the church that I wasn't attending yet. I was visiting, sitting next to a good friend of mine. And little did I know, but my wife now, Samantha, was right on the other side of him. And we didn't even know. We don't remember each other or anything. The backstory is we met in Africa, some years later. But I remember, because I knew Jason. I had played golf with him and was in awe of, he just would walk up there and hit it straight every time. And he likes to play with me because he gets to laugh.
Yeah.
I shoot it this way.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, it's entertainment. Talk a lot and just, play my own version of whatever that sport is. But yeah, I remember that was more than anything that day. The concern was for Jason. And we can go into a lot of detail of the miracles. I mean, one after the next. I remember hearing that Amanda was told initially, like, get down here. We don't know if he's going to be alive when you get here. To everybody, of course, praying to, well, it looks like he's going to make it, but he's probably not going to make it through the night. And then it just kept extending. Well, he's made it through the night, but he's not going to make it through the week, and so on and so forth. And just the miracle after miracle. I don't know if there's any other of those details you want to talk about, including the phone call she got.
She got a phone call from, what was his name? Michael, a guy named Michael that, just basically told her, your husband's been in an accident. All I can tell you is he's alive and breathing. That's all I could tell you. He called her from my phone. So that's what he told her. And then I think it was it's hard to remember all these details. I think the first officer that was on duty called her, I think like an hour or 2 hours after the accident, and basically was telling her, your husband's been in an accident. He's being metaflighted from the scene to a hospital in Plano. And she said, yeah, I know, I'm on my way. I got a call earlier from a guy named Michael. And the officer was like, there's no way, you got a call. I found your husband's phone buried in the dirt over in the grass. There's no way. Yes. So we went back later on, a few months later, to look at the phone records, and there's no record of a phone call from my phone.
Jesus on the main line. What is that?
Exactly. Right? And by Michael of all, right? Michael or Gabriel, like, pick one. That's
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And another interesting point of that story is, like I told you, how I went up in the air. I had a rental home that I had in Oklahoma that needed some fence work done. So I called just basically a random fence company and had a guy meet me there. And we started this was probably 6 or 7 months after the accident. And I met him there at the house, and I just began talking with him. Said, I'd normally do this work myself, but I was in a car accident a few months back and I just can't do it. And he said, where were you in a car accident? I said, the border of Oklahoma and Texas, and just started randomly going over the details. And just by random coincidence, just another miracle, this guy was right behind me the day of the accident, saw the entire thing, told me everything about it, was the first on the scene, helped load me into the ambulance to take me to where the Metaflight was. I mean, it's just one of those moments that you're sitting there and you just got chill bumps, because it's just, there's no other way it was such a relief for him.
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
was the
say,
big thing I took, because he didn't know if I lived or died.
Yeah, what kind of testimony was that to that guy? I mean,
yeah, and he, we ended up having to open up a lawsuit because the trucking company didn't even want to pay for my truck. Basically, that was crashed. But his testimony, because his testimony was just a huge part of us being able to get that part of that lawsuit settled. It was just a miracle.
Right.
It's one thing
Totally
after another.
random, and so random.
Totally random. Yeah, that's what it is.
Totally random.
Completely random.
Yeah,
That's this whole Christian walk, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's
all about
that
chance
happen in
and-
the universe.
none of it links. It's not planned. It's all just sheer random.
Yeah, totally random.
That's awesome to see how that comes around. That's a I had a hard time with that, just understanding that God definitely has a plan. And we keep talking about divine intervention amongst us and how he doesn't really reach down with his hand too often and actually, without the influence of men, make things happen, right?
Yeah.
But he does influence people, but I always tell you, he doesn't see time and space the same way we do. He has the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
He has the whole picture. And I think he does end up, based off of our stupid decisions that we're making, have to move a lot of pieces around just so that we don't get like totally creamed. That we still have a chance to kind of make it. He's like, okay, look, all right, let's measure this out. How dumb are you being right now? And then how many pieces am I gonna have to move so you don't totally die? Yeah. But it is amazing to see like his hand in that kind of stuff and how he brings it around and not just guides it. It's like there's always something in it that we can get out of that to help us along our path. Like you're saying, that's that moment, right? That's the exact moment where you're like, okay, it's time to figure this out. I've had a few of those. I'm sure Shad and Judd have had a few of those too. Maybe not the same circumstances, of course, but he does make things happen sometimes for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I'm kind of intrigued now. I want more, but I know we're doing a podcast or something. So we should probably ask you a couple more questions. So thank you for, first of all, right out of the gate, being so vulnerable for our men. A lot of times we go through something and try to figure it out and have all the questions. And right away you just said, okay, it's about my priorities. So guys, what would you tell guys that don't have the priority straight right now? Save them from the wreck, that lesson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have to, God has to be number one. There's no way around that. He's got to be at the top of your list. Absolutely.
That's simple.
Yeah.
It is that simple
first, right?
Yeah. But we've all been learning that, even just so that's a common theme throughout this whole thing, the authenticity. I think we were just talking about it the other day and I just hit my microphone so everybody's can hear that, but I'll try and cut it out for us. The other day we were talking about it. It's, who are we serving? I think I brought up the fact that I was always so worried about the end because everybody else is going to see me and hear what God had to say about my stuff that I did during Judgment Day, when it really was, that's not the priority. The priority is God himself, right? Him being there. It's like we often live for other people, for ourselves, for a persona or perception of who we are, instead of realizing, look, you're only going to answer one person, and then it's not going to be everybody else standing around there with you. I don't even know if your family is going to be actually standing up. Everybody kind of pushes that Judgment Day. You'll be standing there with your friends and family. It's like, what if I was married like 3 times, or like they all going to be up there with me, or what if I have like 10 kids and I don't know, from different families? Are they going to be with their stepdad? So that doesn't work anymore, right? Not nowadays. It's like, it's you and God. And it's like, what did you do? What didn't you do with the time you had? What were your priorities? And that's it. And if you're putting him first, like you said, like I just try and imagine him walking alongside of me. I screw it up all the time. But I still imagine that he's walking alongside of me going, okay, I don't want to have to bring this up at the end. So just pull your crap together and do it the right way, the first time.
Right.
But you're right.
Dude, I use that analogy. Like I probably weekly, whether it's with soldiers or whether it's with, my kids or whatnot, just look, man, you're held accountable for your actions. Trying to pivot it off of, the excuses and that so-and-so is being mean to me or the boss did this. So, it's like, no, man, like when it comes down to it, you're held accountable for your actions and yours alone,
Right.
And it's interesting to watch people pivot back. Even grown men, gray bearded men even go, yeah, you're right. What do I really care about what they're doing? Do you know what I mean? That's like they'll be held accountable for that. You'll be held accountable for your actions,
Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So just to move us along a little bit, that happened in, was it March of 2015?
Yes.
March of 2015. And it's been a long road, a lot of PT, long recovery. I know the Lord did a ton with you and your wife, your family. So we fast forward a little bit. And first things first, I did get to play golf again with Jason, and I did get to make him laugh. And he's still better than me after having broken like every rib and his back and everything. It still smokes me on the golf course. So that's humbling. But
Yeah.
anyway, we still have fun. But the good news is, most importantly, that he was out there swinging a golf club again.
Yeah.
And but here we are in England now. So again, a lot transpired. And yeah, so why did that happen? How did that happen? And this is the thing that I actually really want all you guys that are listening to hear the most, because I'll just preface this with a little bit of saying this isn't the first time he's moved his family from their home to go do something that God told him and his wife to do. So I really want to kind of dive into that a little bit and say, Jason, you know, we need to hear what does that process look like? How do you know God is speaking to you, and the process of obeying his voice? I mean, it's one thing to move from Florida to South Carolina to Oklahoma. Those are the first ones, right?
Yeah.
But you literally sold things, gave things away, packed up a sea container, shipped everything across the ocean to a different country.
Yeah.
Because you heard God say to do something.
That's right.
And you did it.
That's right.
I mean, that's going to blow that. I'm still trying to figure that out. You know, I kind of did a little move, but you know, help us out here. Help us out. There's a lot of guys that are wanting to hear from God and obey his voice.
Yeah. I think the key to that is, you know, the Bible talks about that still small voice, which I think is translated into what I would call maybe a whisper. And I think only way to hear a whisper is if you get really close to somebody. So if you want to hear that still small voice of God, you got to get really close to him. You got to build a strong relationship with the Lord to be able to hear that still small voice. And that's basically what I've been trying to do. And I know for a shadow of a doubt that we're in England because I heard that voice, and he said, go. And we're talking about being responsible for your decisions and stuff. And I said, yes. So I'm here because I said yes. And I answered it with a yes. And, you know, we moved from, I met my wife in South Florida. We moved I married a pastor's daughter. I had no relation. I never saw a Bible until I started dating my wife, my soon-to-be wife in high school. I had no relationship with the Lord, didn't know anything. And so I married the pastor's. I told him all the time, I don't know why you allowed me to date your daughter. There's no way I do. I have 2 daughters of my own. There's no way I'd allow that. But I guess he saw something in me. Who knows? I married the pastor's daughter, and he decided that it was time for him to move from South Florida to South Carolina, and asked my wife and I if we wanted to go. And of course, I moved grew up out of high school. I was a plumber, and then he offered me a job, and I think I was working for him for maybe 3 months. And he said he's moving from Florida to South Carolina, and asked if we wanted to go. So I moved from Florida to South Carolina for family and a job, basically. I mean, to be completely honest, there wasn't much praying about that. I didn't have any other choice. And then
where were you at? If you don't mind me asking, where were you at in South Carolina?
Greenville.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful. I loved it. It was beautiful.
It is.
We lived in Greenville for about 4 years, and he decided he wanted to pastor a church again. And we had 2 options in Atlanta, one in Atlanta and one in Oklahoma. And he took the church in Oklahoma. There you go. Took the church in Oklahoma and asked my wife again if we wanted to go. And I moved for family and a job again, because what else am I going to do? And I mean, we prayed about it, obviously, but yeah, what else was I going to do? And then this move from Oklahoma to the UK was the first time, I think, that I knew I was moving because God asked me to move. I was moving away from family and a job. So I know this is God. I know I heard that still small voice, and I know I'm here on assignment.
Yeah, I think for background, I don't know if a lot of people know. the situation in the UK, and I'm not going to try and I don't want to like say I'm an expert in it. I know enough about it just from the people I've worked with to know that there's a lot of vacant churches in the UK. There's a lot of churches that have been abandoned in the UK. And there's not a lot of church people there. It's just kind of, it's been very recent, say the last 10, 15 years that this has kind of been going on.
Yeah.
And so there is definitely a fertile field, of people just wait. And I don't want to say it's not because people aren't looking, or that they don't looking. Yeah. They just weren't getting it, whatever it was, whatever the church, like I said, we don't badmouth the church, but there's a difference between the church and then false idols. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot that wasn't there and wasn't being provided, I think, and people gave up. And unfortunately, we see that same trend a lot in the United States right now, with a lot of people starting to kind of give up on church. Same thing with our group. That's the whole reason this got started. Once we were like, I'm not getting the opportunity to serve. I'm not getting this opportunity where I'm at. I don't think, I don't want to waste my time anymore doing that. I'll just watch it online or something like that, So what do you see? I mean, you're there, you're dealing with this. And like I said, I'm not trying to offend anybody in the UK for sure, but it's a fact. You look at the stats. But what are you seeing there? And are you seeing any other similarities in the United States too? You guys have recently moved there, right?
Yes. Yeah. We've been here for about 7 months.
What are you seeing there regarding, let's just talk specifically about men and their involvement in the church?
Yeah. It's funny. I think men in the UK are still, they're looking for the same thing men in the US are looking for. And that's relationship. I think that's what men are looking for. And I think what we're doing here, men rubbing shoulders, ironing, sharpening iron. I think that's what men need. Growing up, like I was saying, as a young man, that I was a good country boy, and I think you come out of the womb kind of knowing how to sharpen a knife. So the whole ironing, sharpening iron I had to kind of think about that. Like, what does that mean? Iron and sharpening iron? Because every time I sharpen a knife, I use some type of stone. It's like, what is iron sharpen iron? But then I did a little bit of research and I realized that when you sharpen a knife with a stone, it removes the material of the blade to actually sharpen it. But when you sharpen iron with iron, you just realign it.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's what men are looking for. Right? There's rubbing shoulders. You feel like you're a little bit out of alignment in life. You rub shoulders and it just kind of puts you back in alignment.
That's good stuff right there, huh, Pete?
Yeah, that's something we can add on to.
Add into on the website.
That'll preach right there, man.
I have to trademark that one. So, but no, that's the truth. We have looked at it the same way. A lot of what we talk about is sharpening each other and using. We take it as a whole person, sometimes sparring, right? That's why we have sparring sessions, and it's just being open enough to hear from a brother, having them throw up a mirror and say, hey, this is where you're screwing up, dude. You need to, get your stuff together, and being able to accept that, you know what I'm saying? Be able to accept it so that so you can be strengthened through that. When the real battle comes, you're not weak. Both Judd and I were in the military and we served together. And that was a daily part of our leadership training. Was, hey, guess what? You had these things called peer reviews during school. I hated them too. I sometimes come out second, sometimes you come out on top. It just depends on how egotistical you were that day, but it's like you got these people who are evaluating you and having to throw that, and you're having to accept that, pull it in and say, okay, I need to work on this stuff, after the initial, who are you to tell me? Right. But it's a lot of what we find is that we need to, in order to be sharpened, in order to do better and become better, we need each other, man. If we don't have each other, if we're living in isolation, we're never going to get better. We're called to be, we're in a fight, it's not like this isn't, I don't think that's like news to anybody. If anybody's paying attention to the world right now, it's a fight. It's a battle right now. And I personally don't separate the spiritual and physical in that realm too much. I think that the physical comes out because of the spiritual fight that's going on. But, we're fighting for our lives, for our families' lives, for each other. And we need to be ready for an even more intense fight. In order to do that, we have to acknowledge our weaknesses and overcome them. So I agree with you on that.
Later, I think later in Proverbs, it says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. And I think it's because when you sharpen a knife, it could get dangerous, especially sharpen a knife with other iron. It could get dangerous. So you get cut sharpening.
We're not sparring with wooden swords, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
So, all right, I'm kind of curious, Jason. So you move, you're pressing into the Lord, you know what I mean, in Oklahoma, Route 66 down there or whatever. But so you're pressing into the Lord in Oklahoma, and so you get close enough to hear that soft voice, right? And my experience with that soft voice, it's not, hey, so this is what you're going to do. You're going to call so-and-so and link this up, and then you're going to put your house on the market, and then you're going to go here, and then, you're going to plug into these guys. And it's usually never that, right? It's usually just something very soft, but very profound that says, I'm going to say England, even though Pete says UK. It just says England. It's just a very simple, you know what I mean? So walk me through, you know what I mean, how you heard this calling, this soft voice saying, hey, I need you to go here. How did you go from where you're at to God's here? I need you here. How did that work?
Yeah, to be totally vulnerable, God speaks to me a lot in the shower, especially when my head's under the water, just pounding on me, so I can't hear anything else but water.
That is a first I've ever heard that. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's just in my prayer time. My wife, I wasn't on the board of our church that was in Oklahoma, and my wife was. She was headed to a board meeting where I thought she was going to be offered the pastorate, basically, of the church in Oklahoma. And at the same time, we had this opportunity in England come up just a few days earlier. And I was a few weeks earlier. Yeah, we were kind of at the end of our talks about it with the pastors that are actually here. And just in my prayer time, I heard the voice of the Lord clearly. I mean, it was basically, because Amanda's father pastored the church here, is basically, I just heard him say, you could stay and do the thing that your father had prepared for you, or you can go and do the thing that I've prepared for you, but only one's going to fulfill you. So it's like, geez.
So now you get to go tell your wife that.
Yeah. So that's what I told my wife. So.
Well, that's so first off, I remember kind of watching that from afar. I would actually go watch the gate stuff every once in a while. I did actually meet Bishop Miller once in Israel, of all places, randomly.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Pastor Pat McDonald from Word of Life. And I have been texting, and I said, so what are you guys doing? It's like, oh, we're in Jerusalem. I was like, I'm in Jerusalem. And we literally, I was just happened to be there on a security detail, and they were there. So we got to meet up, and I got to meet him. Great man. And I've heard him preach before, but I remember watching that kind of progress, and I was like, oh, it only makes sense that, Amanda's going to jump into that role. And then all of a sudden you guys are going to England. And I was like, okay, but it's to make that kind of decision when you have something laid out that's pretty solid already and stable, to leave all that behind and then go. That's a step of faith that is commendable, first off, and I'm sure is going to bear fruit. No doubt about it. But I just want to say, I'm glad that you heard from him in the shower, because me, it's usually when I'm on the pot, like reading. Just to be completely vulnerable. I like to read a lot when I'm on the toilet. So
it's
every once in a while.
So
it's in the bathroom. It's something about that, right? That is our private. That's the only place in the house you can have privacy, right? So it's either that or in the car. Yeah, so I get it.
Supposed to
That's
be
awesome. That's
A
awesome.
prayer closet, not a prayer water closet, guys.
It's a closet, man.
I'm throwing it out there. It's just
Oh gosh.
So you're there now. So tell us exactly what do you guys do? What is your mission right now? What are you guys doing over there? Just so we can share that with the group.
Yeah, we actually today we just finally announced our the pastor of the church here he's kind of stepping out. He asked us to come and take over the pastorate here, and today we just announced it today that we are basically the senior pastors of the church. So that announcement was today. It was a big day. So it went well. It was received well by the congregation, and yeah, we're just excited. The church right now is in a transition out of a certain location in the city into a new building. So it's right in the city center, right in the center of our city, Coventry, which is our city. It's in a perfect location. So that's what we're doing. And our mission really is, I know that we're supposed to be here. Amanda and I, we've got pretty big aspirations on what we want to accomplish here, given to us by the Lord. But I think our biggest thing is we want to build. We definitely want to build a big church, but our focus is on building big people. We don't want to have a huge congregation that is very shallow. It's filled with shallow people. We want to build a big people, and I think that's going to build a big church. That's kind of our focus.
That's awesome.
I got to say something about this. So yeah, we were lucky enough to be here on the weekend. They made this announcement, and to see the transfer done with such, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess grace, but integrity, vulnerability from both sides, saying, "Hey, this is happening. This is real." And the Pastor Gary Spicer and his wife Helen, they built this thing for the last 15 years, and they had to first say to God, "Yes, it's time for us to step aside so that this thing can go to its next." And think about that. I mean, Pete, I know you have some experience of building something and having to say, "Okay, it's run its course. What's next?" And then all of a sudden he throws Iron Edge in your lap as an idea, right?
Yep.
So Gary and Helen had to do that. And in order to make room for what God was doing through Jason and Amanda, and then they had to say yes to what God was doing too. So to see that today, that transfer, and to see all the people in the congregation that have been part of building this go, "Oh, wow, yeah, this is totally God. Like, we're on board," was such a privilege.
Yeah.
And the whole reason that I'm even out here is we softened them up with a good traditional Thanksgiving dinner last night. So my wife is an amazing cook, as you know, and we did the full, ironically, the full Thanksgiving dinner here in the UK or England, and served them the turkey, the cranberry sauce, the stuffing,
the works,
the sweet potatoes, and everybody loved it, by the way. So I was really, really privileged, but to see their heart, all that was fun, but it was really a big deal. It was really a big deal. Something transferred in authority and by the Spirit of God today. And you could hear their hearts that they want to see the people, find God for themselves and built up and strengthened so that the city could then in turn be touched, and the nation, kind of where you started, Pete, could then be, turned as well back to God, like his original design and plan for this place. And it's way exciting. I mean, we're talking about it kind of simplistic. Yeah. But there's huge things, just even the location of this new church. And the fact that one of the guys said to me, we punch above our weight class here. They're this little church and they serve the city already. Yeah. They don't have a big name thing. It's something, Pete, you and I love. It's not around a persona. It's around the heart of God. They're serving their city. They're helping people in the red light district. Yeah. They're, right smack dab in the middle of it. They're feeding people. They're getting, there's a guy there I talked to today. I just met these people, but he's helping men with, this is really interesting, men that have been abusive, not abused, men that have been abusive and want to change. Okay. He takes them in, assesses them to see if it's the real deal. And then he literally walks them through how to how to make God the patriarch of the family, not you, the patriarch, saying, do what I say, woman.
It's awesome.
And change and works with their mental health on that.
Yeah.
Something that, maybe they didn't have patterned correctly. And so, I mean, they are touching the city already in powerful ways. And the next is what God has assigned Jason and Amanda to.
Yeah, we're walking into what I call or my wife actually, the mystery, the unknown, because we don't have a contract on paper. We're doing this all just trust, vulnerability. Yeah, there's no contract. We're doing this a little different way that I've never seen done before. So it's definitely vulnerable, but when you know God's in it, you just keep walking.
I think that's hard for most men to do. You do get to a certain point. I gave up planning a long time ago. A lot of the guys know I lost my middle son, and after that, when my middle son passed, it was like I have no control over anything, literally nothing. Every time I think I'm in control, typically it's either out of arrogance or because I'm actually trusting God that He's gonna take the wheel and steer it for me a bit. I try and do the best with whatever He gives me, right, with the direction He gives me.
Yeah.
But every time I try and plan something out like this, like Chad was saying, this whole thing that we're doing right now, this was a whim, threw a video out there and it got a bunch of response, and God was like, all right, do something. And it's the same thing with what you're saying. I mean, your journey obviously is directed by God, but it probably has, I think it's 90% us making decisions to listen and to take a couple steps forward. And then he's driving the train after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
until we derail it.
God responds to boldness. He's always done that. Yeah, he responded to David to take a slingshot to a sword fight. Benaniah chasing a lion down a pit. I mean, he responds to boldness.
Yep, totally agree.
So, what I hope I can do.
Well, and here's what he left out. And we talked about this today in church, but part of that journey is the day that this was all kind of, I guess, commissioned, was the last conversation that they had via Zoom with Bishop, because on January 19th of this year, 3 hours later, he passed away. Yeah. And so then that made this whole thing take on a whole new light. So it was a yes, and everything was, on board. And I mean, it was God. But then your whole world gets flip upside down. And is it still a yes? Yeah. Out of maybe what seems convenient, or, I mean, you can imagine the mix that threw in. Even the pastors out here were like, well, I know we just formalized this, but if the bishop's gone now and there's the gate in Oklahoma City. So, I don't know, but this is God's church. So we're going to leave it in His hands. So, again, we could go off. There's like a million different side pathways we could go here, but you want to talk about putting your faith to the test. It's not, almost to your point, it's not a here's what I want you to do, and here's steps A through Z to get there. It's here's what I said. Do you trust me? Mm-hmm. Here's what I said. Do you trust me? And that was tested within 2 hours.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think everybody gets this idea in their head when they hear the straight and narrow. They think like that's like literal. I'm just like, it's a straight and narrow, like a direct line to God. But there's a crap ton of distractions on either side of you as you're trying to figure that out. That could take you off this way or this way or this way. I also don't think. I think a lot of times we take those side roads, and God will just be like, okay, look, that's not the right. No, that's the wrong one. Look, I'm going to make another path for you back to where I was trying to get you to go in the first place. Mm-hmm. You have the opportunity, but then a lot of us just keep going off the side road. He's like, dude, how much more clear can I make it? So it's so important to be able to listen to that voice and be able to understand, and then also understand this part of it too. Like, at least in your experience here is like completely different from mine, but the principles and the premise behind it, like how God works to get us to where He wants us to go, doesn't change. I mean, it's just, He's constantly there the door's open, it's like, hey, hello, come on.
Mhm.
You just have to look over here, and it's,
Mhm.
and then go through it. But it takes a lot of courage, I think. And that's one of the hardest things for us to do, is put faith in God like that, to give up solid job, to give up money, to give up a house, if you have kids, to put them, at risk as well by doing what God's telling you to do, doing all that. But it's like, once you take that step, that's all he's asking for. I mean, he's going to bless it regardless, and if we're just doing it for him, if we're prioritizing, like you were saying, prioritizing his will and what he wants for us, everybody else is going to benefit from that. Unless they purposefully try not to, I think. So I think it's great. I think it's great what you're doing.
I got one for you, Jason. So
Yep.
one, I love the analogy of in a pit with a lion. It was even on a snowy day, right? When he jumped in, when Benaiah jumped in, which is crazy. But I mean, to say I'm going to just go out, head to England, you know what I mean? Like, that's insane. That's an insane jump.
Yeah.
I mean, at least it's somewhat kind of Americanized, but it's still, I mean, you're crossing the pond, man. Like, that's insane. That's not like just going to, starting another church in another state or whatever. Like, like you went all in, man. You went all out. You went all in for this whole thing.
I did.
So on the reflection of the last, you've been there for what, 7 months?
7 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So take the transition to getting there and getting there. If you had one point of reflection, one like aha moment, one God moment, one piece of advice maybe that you could give the other Iron Edge guys that are looking, right? And a lot of these dudes are studying and trying to hear that small whisper, or some are just lost and trying to figure it all out. Like, is there one piece that you could look back and say,
take showers a lot?
Yeah.
See, I sing in the shower, so I sorry, that's my time. So, but and I don't do it on the water closet. But there's one piece of advice or one reflection that you could give our guys. Like what would that be?
Yeah, when I said yes to come here, I don't think I realized it was a yes, and then 2 hours later, I had to say yes again, and then the next day I had to say yes. It wasn't just one yes, it was multiple yeses, and I've had to say yes every day to it, because to be honest, it's not been all roses and cupcakes, unicorn farts here. It's been tough. I mean, my kids, it's not been easy on my kids. I think the key is to having that personal, ongoing relationship with the Lord. I mean, that's the key, to be honest. I mean, you gotta have that relationship.
I think all of us are here for a reason. And I always say that, if we weren't, we'd get saved and go straight to heaven. There'd be no reason for us to be on earth. There'd be no reason for us to deal with all the bull crap we have to deal with here. It'd just be like, hey, I believe in Jesus, and paradise. But he has a purpose for all of us. There's a reason we're here, and it is to reach as many as we possibly can while we have this short period of time here on earth. Not that he's keeping track or measuring or anything, maybe your purpose is only to reach one person, but then that person goes on to reach 1 million. You don't know. But it's very clear that we have to be able to listen, and after listening and hearing that voice, trust that God's gonna give us that direction and reward us for being courageous and taking steps toward the calling that he has for us. That's what we get out of this. And like I said, I think we're going to be praying hard for Pastor Jason and for Amanda, and know when we come back and revisit them that there's going to be some fruit to hear about and rejoice with them in. So thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again in a few weeks.